Alright guys, I know I've complained a lot about how hot it's been lately in this studio, but today is the hottest day of the year, and yeah, I'm dying in here, so just know that I'm going to sweat. I'm an overweight man who's going to be active in a studio that's 115 degrees according to that temperature gauge right there, also known as a thermometer. Don't know why I called it a temperature gauge. Trying to sound smart, I guess. So, yeah, today is a fun day, so I didn't want to wait any longer. I couldn't wait any longer because I have to be on set next week. So I'm trying to get as many of these filmed, so on the downtime I can edit them and still get them out to you without missing any time. With that being said, let's roll that bumper. So today's a fun day. I'm going to show you my camera that I chose to shoot any features or shorts or anything else that anybody hires me to shoot. And also my own projects, and that's mainly what I bought it for. So without further ado, let's get to it. What do you think is in this giant case? If you can even see me at this point. Here I am. Hello, I'm over here. All right, so I guess I don't need to show you the case. Without further ado, it's the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4.6K Pro G2. The worst name for a camera, but a very, very fine camera. No, I didn't get the 12K. The 12K was a little out of my price range because of all the other add-ons that I'm going to show you today. And yeah, let's get right to it. All right, so first things first, before I go any further, it is far too hot to wear this hat anymore. It's finally broken me. I'm finally going to take the beanie off, which is not a big deal, but for me it is. So don't laugh at my nappy COVID hair. I haven't had a chance to get it cut because all the barbershops closed. Anyways, the only thing that comes with the Blackmagic Ursa 4.6K G2, from here on out I'm just going to call the Ursa, is the body itself and half of a power supply. Why half of a power supply? Because it doesn't come with the part that plugs in right there. You have to supply that yourself. That's to be expected from cinema cameras in this day and age. So the first thing I did was put this back in the box because I don't think I'll be using it very often. And then I went and found a battery mount. This is a VMount from a company called DTap Pro, which is the same place I bought this camera. And yeah, let's install that first. Okay, so when we flip it over and look at the bottom here, it looks like we have a bunch of different mounting holes and there's a bunch of different options on this. I chose to go with these two that match up, one in there, one in there, one there that matches up, and one there that matches up. So 5 in total. So the first thing you have to do is pop these little tabs out, which I can do with my little screwdriver here. Or you can just poke them through from the bottom. But don't lose them like I just did. Looks like I had it a little backwards there. Alright, so again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I could be wrong right now, but those are from my preliminary search here. That's, yeah, that's what it looks like. So then you have to plug it in before you screw it in. So make sure the plate is right side up. Line up the white to the white there, and it's just an easy plug. Straight down. Sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't. Mine did not, but it's not going anywhere. Alright, from there you have to tuck the cable here into this little nook, and it's a very tough cable, so you really have to scram it in there, and then you grab your screws. Alright, so I take the first screw, drop it in the hole. I'm sure you guys have screwed things in before. Just gotta make sure it's lined up with the hole. Again, you don't have to use V-mounts. You can use gold mount batteries. They have those as well. Sure, I'm sure at DTap Pro there. But I like V-mount basically because I already had V-mount for my lights. And since I'm putting so much money into all these other parts, I didn't have money for more batteries. So I chose V-mount. There you go. All secured. Boom. Alright, so the next thing we're going to get to is caging this thing up. So the first cage I bought was a cage for the size. This is a rosette mount. I think Ari made it originally, and I'm going to put a cage here that also has that rosette mount, so I have mounting ports plus the rosette. And the one I chose is from a company called Small Rig, who you will be hearing about a lot today. And basically, it has a rosette mount on the back. You put it onto this rosette mount and you screw it in. Very, very basic stuff. I like to make sure it's straight in. There we go. I'll tell you what this little piece of Velcro is for later. And boom. Now we still have that mount, but we also have all these places that have 1/4 and 3/8 mounts, so we can mount other things to it. Now, the top handle. The top handle I actually got with a set from Came TV that came with the shoulder mount and the top handle. And it looked good on paper, but I didn't like how it felt in my hand, and the screws stripped out these two ports because they were defective somehow. I don't exactly know how that happened. So I tried to fix it the best way I knew how, which was by force and glue, and I nicked up my brand new camera, which was not fun at all. So then I looked on the internet and couldn't find anything, and yeah, I eventually realized how to fix it, as you see now, and I'm going to have a video here soon showing you how to do that. But let's move forward with the top handle that I did buy. Now again, this is from Small Rig, as you can see, but I couldn't just get a regular top handle that would fit all cameras because I want to use the electronic viewfinder with this camera. So I had to get one that was compatible with the electronic viewfinder, and even the electronic viewfinder mount has ports all over. It's awesome. So anyways, very basic stuff again. I use these 3 holes to mount it into. So with it comes 2 different kinds of screws. When you're mounting it to the camera, you want to use the lower profile. If you use the bigger ones, your EVF will not be able to slide in because the screw will be blocking it. So let's start with the middle one, as I like to commonly do. You'll notice that mine's forward a little bit. I like mine a little bit forward. You can mount it backwards, whatever your preferences are. One thing that is a pain in the rear is all of these things have different hex screw mounts, so you have to have different hex screws for everything. Not that big of a deal, but I just wish everything used the same size, but I guess that's just not possible. So we got the first part on there. Now we need to mount this onto the rail itself. So let's do that. Now we use the fatter screws. Now what I like to do is just drop the screws into the holes here, so that way the holes can guide themselves. And I know it looks like it's going to be hard to get a Allen wrench in there, but Small Rig thinks of everything, I'm telling you. So we will put the first one down. You can grab your camera and you can carry it around places because this thing ain't going anywhere. So now that we got a top handle on, what's the next thing we should do? Let's put on the shoulder mount. Something I probably should have done before I put the top handle on it, but that's okay. We can make it work. We just have to balance it on the top handle now. So this is from a company called Came TV. It comes in a kit with a top handle and with an arm that I'll show you later, and this shoulder mount. I like the shoulder mount. Again, I didn't like the top handle, but that's okay. Came TV usually makes pretty good stuff. So the way I like to do it is I like to line it up here and use the second to the last as the back one and the second to the front as the front one. And again, you know you have it pointed the right way because this little arrow looking thing needs to be pointed to the front of the camera. It is, so we are pointed the right direction. Alright, so I like to start one off but not fully screw it all the way in so I can still slide it around. Alright, now we'll get the second guy here. Once you get it in, it's really easy just to screw them on down. But I guess you guys know how to screw things in. I keep forgetting that. Alright, we got the shoulder mount on. Voila! Alright, and at this point I like to put the rails in the shoulder mount because the rails come with the shoulder mount and it just makes things easier. these are the rails that come with the shoulder mount, and they go directly into these two holes right here in the front. I like to push them all the way back, but they are adjustable. And then we just tighten them down like so with these red turny thingies. And if you're wondering, yes, red turny thingies are their technical term. All right, from there, I think it's time to put on the electric viewfinder. From here on out, I'll call it the EVF because that's what everybody calls it. So this is the electric viewfinder from Blackmagic. It does not come with the camera. You have to buy it separately, but it is a really good EVF. So you just slide it in. There's a little notch right in here. You slide it in like so. And then you look on the back here. There's a power port right there. What do you know? And an SDI port for the EVF. So all you do is you put that in and you turn it to lock it down, and boom, we got an EVF. If you're looking to adjust the EVF on the bottom here, you can see these little notches that you just have to turn to lock and unlock, and you can put this thing in any situation you want. So one thing I noticed when I put it in is the EVF wasn't locked down, so it's pretty snug, but I want it locked down. Now the screw for this that came with the handle itself is this bolt here, which is a 3/8 bolt, and it won't fit through the hole there from either side, so that's a no-go. I like to put it here just in case I can use it for anything. It's right there and it's handy. The one that comes with the camera does fit. Only problem is it doesn't reach down far enough, which is something that took me a minute to figure out. Why won't it go in? Because this plastic piece right here, you can see it's all scratched up. My first option was to try to Dremel it down, and then I realized that was ridiculous. So then I came up with another option, and the reason I didn't put it on first is because I wanted to show you my process and how I came to the conclusion. So we have to take the EVF off, and we have to take the top part of the top handle off. All right. And what did I do? Since originally I was trying to screw it into this 1/4-20 thread right here, but I've since used it to tighten it down because I know it won't work, and that's what this is 1/4-20. Now, it would reach here, but it's 3/8, so I just use these little guys. I love these little guys to turn both of these 3/8 holes into 1/4-20 so I can mount it to either one. I'll show you how I do that in a second. It's always good to have things that make your equipment versatile, so you can use them in different situations like this, or else I would have just had to live with the fact that if anybody weird came and touched my camera and tried to adjust the EVF, they'd probably yank it off. So let's attach everything that we just detached. We slide the EVF back in like so. We plug the power cord back in. Actually, let's do the SDI first since it's right here. If you don't know how to plug in an SDI, there's a little notch there and a notch on the receiving hole, and you just line those up like so. Actually, that was a bad demonstration. The notch is right here. You can see it there and the turn channel there. So you line that up and then turn until it clicks. And the power port is pretty self-explanatory. All right, so now after we did all of that, we put the little guy in here. Try to see how far up you want it. And voila, we turn it and it's locked in. So when you want to move it, you just turn that to unlock it. And you can adjust this, but it's not going to fall out anywhere. Okay, next thing we're going to put on is the side handle. Now this side handle has come included with every Ursa previous to this one, but it does not come with the G2. You have to buy it separately. So it's very easy to screw on. It just goes on this little rosette mount here, and there's one on the handle itself with a little turning screw. And you get it where you want it and tighten it down. Put the plug back on top. And boom, you got a handle now. Now the cool thing about this handle is you can actually control things with it. So you come down here, and on the back here, I don't know if you can see that back there, there's a little plug right in there. Boom. And then you plug that into a little port right next to the EVF stuff. Boom. Now you got a handle on the side. Alright, so now I'm just going to put a lens on to complete a little bit of aesthetic. There's a lot more stuff, but it's just at this point I want to do that. This is a Rokinon 100mm macro, so that's always fun. And now I'm done with this table. I want to start putting it on a tripod so that way you can see everything else that just won't sit flush on a table. So let's get this table out of the way and pull in the tripod. Okay, so at this point we need to find a way to mount it to a tripod because you can't mount it like a DSLR or mirrorless because it has that big shoulder mount on it. So this is my tripod. I normally just have this little Manfrotto, I think it's a 502 head, and it's just a little Manfrotto quick release plate. We need to attach this to something that will attach to that camera, and that's where this guy comes in. This is an E-Image PSC shoulder mount to tripod adapter. Now, how does this adapt to your tripod? Well, it's got tons of mounting ports here, and I like to mount it just in the middle. I use 2 1/4 threads. Normally there's only one on this, but now there are 2. Make sure that everything is pointing in the right direction. So again, the arrow points forward where the lens should go, and let's mount this guy up. For those watching the top-down video, I am very sorry you have to look at my crazy feet, but again, it's too hot for shoes in here. Alright, so now it is on the quick release plate, and we just slide that in, make sure it's about even, lock it down, boom. Basically, let me see if I can demonstrate this. So this metal piece here gets hit with the metal underneath the camera, comes down and locks it into place with that and that bolt. And that resets it. So you just grab your camera, put it down, slide it forward till you hear that click, and bam, we're ready. So I flipped the camera around so you got a little bit of a better vantage point from where you're sitting there. And yeah, so next up, let's put on a wireless follow focus. So I've had mine for a while. It's not something I had to buy, but I always use the Nucleus N from Tilta. Eventually I want to go to the more higher end of Tiltas, but for right now this works perfectly for my needs. We're going to need this DTap cord and the motor itself. Alright, so we got the motor and we got the cord. So basically the motor can just slide on here. On the other lens I used, the follow focus fit perfectly, but on this one I am going to have to slide the camera back a little bit on my shoulder mount. And yeah, lesson learned. Alright, so that makes sense. So always mount this with the back farthest 1/4 screw on the back 1/4 bolt hole on the camera itself. And that's why, because you want to be able to mount these even if they're short distance from the flange itself. Alright, so back to the Nucleus Nano. I plug in the micro USB cable here. And this is a micro USB to DTap, and the DTap I will explain later. Slide this bad boy on right here and make sure it lines up to the lens ring itself. Now I hear you asking, now where are we going to plug the DTap in? Well, that's where that little piece of Velcro on this side comes from. I put that piece of Velcro there myself so we can Velcro on a DTap splitter. And what a DTap splitter does is it splits DTap, so you can power everything off one DTap plug. So on this side here, on the plate itself, we plug our DTap into the plate. The reason I like to plug it into the plate as opposed to the battery itself, I'll show you in just a second. When you look at the back here, when you have the VMount battery on right here, the DTap's right in here and it gets in the way of the SDI ports. Okay, so you take the DTap from our Nucleus Nano, You wind it around back here. I like to wind mine underneath the lens here so it's out of the way. And plug it into our first DTap port right there. Voila. Obviously, we don't have a battery plugged in right now, so yeah, nothing's going to happen. Next up, we are going to put our matte box on. And the matte box I have chosen is a matte box from a company called Camtree, and it's the Camtree Cam Shade. This matte box, it's nothing special, it's just a basic matte box. It does have a slot for ND or polarizers or any filters you want, but since this has internal NDs, I didn't really break the bank on a matte box. This is actually one of the cheaper ones. And eventually I would like to get a flip away one so I don't have to take it off every time I change lenses. But for now, this is going to do. So these little holes right here go onto the rails right there. Very simple stuff. Push it back up to the lens and turn those red screw thingies I was talking about earlier. You need to wrap this around the lens so that way you don't have to use any step-up rings and no light gets in. From there, mine's already set up, but you can see from the front, there's these little screws down here. Let me get a light. Or actually, let me point them into the light. You can see these little screws down here, and those are to adjust it up and down so your lens is centered. All right, now we're starting to look like a camera. One thing I forgot to do is I like to take the DTap splitter and run it just a couple of times around here, just to keep it nice and tidy before I plug it in. All right, next up we are going to go with the on-camera monitor. And the on-camera monitor I selected was the Small HD 702. Small HD makes some of the best on-camera monitors. And yeah, I had to get one for myself because I love them. I'm using this little small rig adapter to put that onto this top handle here. Boom. All right, so now we are all set up on top there. So because I only want to use one battery, I have these Sony NPF to DTap adapters. So you just snap those right in like you would an NPF battery. And then, again, I like to wrap them around the handle just a couple of times here. And I'm sure you already know where I'm going with this. We plug them into the DTap splitter. So now we don't have to worry about the monitor losing power different than the camera. We just have to worry about one battery and be done with it. So basically, this is how I like to run it when it's just on a tripod. Of course, I'll put a VMount battery on it. The VMount battery, it just slides into the back here. You know, a little VMount. If you're familiar with VMounts, they're real easy. You just slide them back down. And voila. I'm sure this lit up over here, this wireless follow focus. Yes, it did because it's plugged into the battery. Let's turn our camera on. Turn on our monitor. And voila. There you go. So that's basically how I like to run this camera when it's on a tripod. When it's on a shoulder mount, here, let me show you what that looks like. Now you'll notice when I turn the camera off, the peripherals still stay on because they're still plugged into the battery. Now this is the other thing that comes with that Cam TV kit. It's an arm, a rosette arm, that goes right here on the rosette. I like to put it just kind of at a 45-degree angle there. The cool thing is there's also a rosette here. Let me back this up a little bit for you so you can see everything. The cool thing is there's actually a rosette down here too. Sometimes I wish I had fingernails. So I can take this handle that has controls off the side of the camera. And I can put it down here at the bottom of the handle. And voila, still connected. I can still hit record down here and all the buttons. So when we flip it around here to the other side, I used Some people only use the one arm. I like to use two, so I bought another arm from a company called Wooden Camera, which makes very good quality stuff. And then I bought a generic handle that also has a rosette mount, or rosé. I don't know how you say it. Rosette, rosé, one of those. So let me put that on. The cool thing about that is now I can take this adapter that comes with the Nucleus Nano. I think technically it's for the Zhiyun Crane, the original one, but it works really good for all these little little handles like this. So let's tighten her up. Put on this little bracket here. All right, the bracket is on, and we can slide the Nano controller right on there. So yeah, that's basically how I like to rig it up when it's on my shoulder. Let me show you what that looks like here. When you're trying to take the camera out, you just hit this little red thing. It's probably a button. You hit this little red button and you pull. Make sure you have a hold of your camera. You lift up, grab the handle, and you're up and on your shoulders. Now, one thing I forgot to do was to adjust my EVF, so I'll do that now. Pull it out just a little bit. Turn the camera on. Turn the wireless follow focus on. And we're up and shooting. So, one thing I'd make an adjustment on here is to just change this handle a little bit. And voila, here's looking at you guys. And yeah, so this has been the hardest video I've ever had to make because of the heat and all of the hard work, like lifting this thing up. But it's actually really comfortable, as you can see by me closing the video with this still on my shoulder.